Hello, I'm Dustin McCallister and welcome to Practice. For this class, you'll need a block and a strap to be able to do all of the exercises together. It's intended for swimmers to focus on shoulders, but anyone who has sort of strong and fairly mobile shoulders, this would be an excellent practice for. If you're more of a yogi than a swimmer, it will be a complete practice, and it'll just be a shoulder open and sort of broad shoulder girdle engagement focused class. Let's sit to start. Sit up on a little bit of height so that you can have soft hips. And you can sit in Sukhasana with me in easy pose. If you have a different upright seat you'd like to take, then go ahead. If you're less familiar with a yoga class structure, I like to start sitting just so you can give a moment to clear your head. It's a nice way to get in touch with how your body's feeling, to start putting some detailed placement of work into your body so that you have a sense of yourself in space and you're able to start focusing in on these minute details. Place yourself so that your shoulders are right on top of your hips so that you're leaning neither forward nor back. And lift your chest up a little extra. Most of us with that chest lift will start to engage our hip flexors a little bit. So try to relax the fronts of your hips and let your legs just hang down. Still with that little lift in the sides of your chest, slide your shoulder blades toward each other a bit. There should be a moderate engagement in your middle back that gives you that shoulder blade toward each other movement. Keep at least the engagement, even if the placement of your shoulder blades changes as you bring your palms together in front of your torso and make the pose of salute. If you're not as much of a yogi and you don't want to do that, don't do it and just let your hands rest, and that's fine. Think of the back of your head lifting gently up so that the back of your neck is slightly long, but do that without clamping down in the front or the sides of your neck. Try to have everything feel reasonably soft, but there's just this sense of upward movement in the back side of things. Relax your eyes so your vision's kind of blurred. If you're comfortable with it, close your eyes. If you have a mindfulness practice, you can use whatever it is you're familiar with. If you're newer to this kind of practice, I like to focus my awareness on my breathing. You can think about the movements that you find in your torso with the movement of your breath. Or you could focus on the sensation of the air passing in and out of your nose as you breathe. Try to make your breaths just a little longer than your usual casual breathing, but don't make it too aggressive. Use a longer inhalation. Fill your torso all the way up with air. Lift your chest up a little extra. Tip your head forward and down toward your lifting chest. And draw the lower edge of your skull back and up. Give yourself even more of a double chin. Release your hands to your legs. When your inhale comes, lift your head and open your eyes. Let's start with a little twist to start getting engagement in the back of your shoulder. So take your right hand around behind you and take your left hand to the outside of your right leg. Start with your palm against your thigh and lift your left elbow up so that your left armpit feels kind of airy. Pull your left shoulder blade toward your spine some rather than letting it be wildly protracted, and pull as if you would drag your left elbow straight to the left. Push down with your right hand as you twist, and imagine sliding your right hand to the right. You can get a little work in the front of your right shoulder. Fun. Turn your head and look all the way back over your right shoulder. Unwind back to center and switch. Now take your left hand behind you. Take your right hand to the outside of your left leg. Have your right palm against your leg and lift your right elbow up so your right armpit feels kind of airy. Pull your right shoulder blade toward your spine some, not so much, but just so it's not wildly protracted. Pull with your right arm. Push down as you twist and imagine sliding your left hand to the left so you get work in both shoulders, and the engagement of both arms helps to deepen the turn. And turn back to center and do it again. Take your right hand behind you. This time, turn your left palm out to the left as you take the back of your, whatever that is, the right, as you take the back of your left wrist to the outside of your right leg. For this one, try to get your left elbow all the way straight, so it'll be a slightly different engagement than working with the bent elbow. Same business, try to pull your left shoulder blade toward your spine a little, and then press the back of your wrist into your right leg. Push your right hand down, imagine sliding your right hand to the right, and turn. If you really get a lot of twist, you might have to reinitiate or figure out the straightness of your left elbow. As your left shoulder turns around, you might need to reach your hand farther over past your right leg there. And unwind back to center. Other side. Take your left hand behind you. Put the back of your right wrist on the outside of your left leg. Try to straighten your right arm completely. Pull your right shoulder blade back a hint. Press your right arm into your leg. Push your left hand down. Imagine sliding your left hand to the left and turn. As you twist and your right shoulder comes across your body, you might need to work again on the straightness of your right elbow. Unwind back to center. Find your strap, or you could use a belt, and make a loop. If you have an adjustable yoga strap, make it the length of your shoulders. Whatever you're using, try to get it about that wide, so that when you put the strap around your wrists, your hands come more or less straight forward from your shoulders. So vaguely here-ish. If it's too narrow, it is too hard. And if it is much too wide, it is also extremely hard. So you want it in the just right sort of category. We'll do this on your back. So you might need to watch first, but if you can figure out a way to sort of sneak glances as you go, you can just follow along. Lie on your back. And put the strap loop around your wrists with your palms facing each other at first. Straighten your legs. And as your legs straighten, notice how your lower back lifts way up away from the floor. Make the fronts of your legs work. Press your thighs down. Try to reach your feet as far away from you as they'll go. Draw your belly in and round your lower back down toward the floor some. And it's unlikely that it will touch the floor because most of us would have to bend our knees for that, but you just don't want the wild arch of that initial leg straightening. Press your wrists strongly into the strap loop. Keep the tension in the loop, and we're just going to do little shoulder blade movements, protraction and then partial retraction back to whatever shape you're starting in. Reach your fingertips up toward the ceiling as far as they go, keeping the tension in the loop. And then draw your shoulder blades down some, and the floor's in the way, so likely you can't get as much of that movement as you often do. Reach up, fingertips go way up, your shoulder blades lift away from the floor some. Keep the tension and pull your shoulder blades down some. Reach up, keep the tension in the loop, reach, reach, reach. And pull down. 2 more, go up. And pull down. Last one, go up. And down. Good. And relax it a second. How nice. Now turn your palms forward, but get yourself set up in more or less the same way. Straighten your legs, draw your belly in, round your lower back down a little bit. Straighten your elbows all the way. Press your wrists side to side into the loop, and it's a slightly different engagement now with your arms in this rotation. Start by reaching your fingertips up toward the ceiling as much as they go so that your shoulder blades are as wide apart as they can be and they lift off of the floor a little. Keep the tension in the loop and start to take your hands overhead. Go maybe halfway down toward the floor and stay. Press side to side in the loop. Press the loop, tear the loop apart. Try, tear it apart, tear it, tear the loop a lot, tear it apart, tear it. Keep the tension in the loop and bend your elbows straight out to the sides. Keep your elbows bent and lower your hands down toward the floor a couple more inches so you're still not all the way to the floor. Keep pressing side to side into the loop. Slowly straighten your arms on this new angle so your wrists are that little bit closer to the floor. Reach, reach, reach. Bend your elbows straight out to the sides. Lower your hands down a couple more inches. So now maybe your hands are close to the floor, but they're not yet touching the floor if you have that flexibility. Keep the tension in the loop. Keep your hands close to the floor. Try not to let your middle back lift up. Use your upper abs and anchor your middle back down onto the mat is a fun goal. And straighten your elbows again, still pressing into the loop. Tear the loop apart, tear the loop apart. Straighten your elbows, reach, reach, tear the loop and reach and tear it and reach and tear it and reach and reach and tear it, reach, reach, tear it, tear it, tear it, tear it, reach, 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 reach. One more, rebend your elbows. Go down to the floor. If you don't quite have that flexibility, just get as close to the floor as you can. Most of us, when we go to the floor, start to find our middle backs lifting up. So again, pull the front of your rib cage in and down. Try to flatten your back down toward the floor as much as you can. Try to press the backs of your hands down into the floor. Press your forearms down into the floor. Keep the tension in the loop and straighten your arms. Still pressing your hands down. Straighten your arms. Press your hands down. Straighten your arms. Press your hands down. Tear the loop. Press your hands down. Tear the loop. Reach. Reach. Tear the loop. Press. Press. Ribs in. Oh, gosh. And relax it. Fine. Come on out of that. And get a blanket or a large bath towel and make a narrow roll. So I'll open my blanket up vaguely this size. Get it nice and smooth, and then roll from the long edge to the long edge. This roll should be rather tight. If you happen to have a really skinny foam roller, so not sort of the standard thickness, but something even less than half that thickness, that might work for this too. There needs to be space for the roll or whatever it is to go between your shoulder blades. A large foam roller is okay to use, but too high for most people to be able to do this. Put whatever it is you're using down long style on the mat and sort of tamp it down so it holds its shape. And then sit on the roll and lie back. You want something long enough that there's room for your whole spine and the back of your head on the roll. Take your arms out to the sides. Bend your elbows so your forearms point up toward the ceiling. Have your feet a little wider than your hips so that you can use your legs to prevent some of the tippiness of the shape. Move your elbows up so that your armpits are nice and open, and your upper arms, best you can get them, come straight off of your shoulders. Press your upper arms down toward the floor and squeeze your shoulder blades into the roll. So if you look carefully here, you'll see my chest lift up some as I get the shoulder blade movement. So here's my downward push and then shoulder blades. Keep that work, pressing your elbows down and squeezing your shoulder blades into the roll, and slowly rotate your forearms so that the backs of your hands come down toward or maybe to the floor. If you can get it to be the back of your forearm instead of extending your wrists on there, but get your forearm all the way down and press your forearms down, then do. Keep pushing down at least into your elbows and rotate back up. Twice more, just here. Rotate again. Bring the backs of your forearms down to the floor while you still push down. And undo and come back up. And last one, rotate. And back. And soften. Now we'll do a similar-ish movement, combining some of the movements from the last exercise. So we'll start with the rotation to get the backs of our forearms down, and then keep your forearms down as long as you can and straighten your arms to reach overhead. We're not using the loop, but you'll remember the engagements of the loop. Here you go. Take your arms to the sides with your elbows more or less right off of your shoulders and your forearms pointing up to the ceiling. Press your elbows down some and squeeze your shoulder blades against the roll. Keep the work and slowly rotate. Oh, it's hard. Yeah. Then again, it's a fun goal that your elbows will stay down. It is not realistic that that will remain. Your elbows will definitely come up, but even the backs of your wrists might come up. It's a goal to keep them down. Keep pushing down into the floor and start to reach your arms up overhead, but push your forearms down. Push your forearms down. As you reach overhead, straighten your elbows some. Your elbows will start to come up, so still try to press the backs of your hands down. Reach back. Bring your upper arms in close to your ears and try to press the backs of your hands down. Once your elbows are all the way straight, bring your arms in toward each other some and press the backs of your wrists down into the floor the best you can. Keep the downward force. Rebend your elbows. And as soon as you can, get your elbows down onto the floor. Keep pushing down and drag along so that your upper arms come off of your shoulders again. Rotate until your forearms point up to the ceiling, still pushing your elbows down with your shoulder blades squeezing against the roll, and then relax. One. We'll do that twice more. Upper arms off of your shoulders with your elbows down and your forearms up. Press your elbows down, squeeze your shoulder blades against the roll, and rotate and bring the backs of your wrists down. The downward force into your elbows is important there. We're looking to maintain engagement across a range of motion. Keep pushing your forearms down as long as you can and start to reach back. Once your elbows straighten, bring your wrists in toward each other. Try to press the backs of your hands down. Press, 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 and reach. And rebend, dragging along the sides. Get your elbows down as soon as you can. Push down, upper arms off of your shoulders, and then rotate, forearms up to the ceiling, and you're still squeezing your shoulder blades against the roll, and then relax it. Gosh, that's hard. And we'll do it one more time. Elbows out to the sides, forearms up. Push your elbows down and squeeze your shoulder blades against the roll. Keep the downward force and rotate. Press the backs of your forearms down and reach. As your elbows straighten, bring your hands in toward each other so they end up vaguely shoulder width distance apart. Get your elbows all the way straight if you can and press the backs of your wrists down into the floor. And rebend, pressing your forearms down as you go. Press, 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 press. Upper arms off of your shoulders, and then rotate, and your shoulder blades are still squeezing against the roll. And relax. Okay, fine. And just take your arms up overhead with your arms off to the sides a little bit, and you can just sort of hang out like a dead bug on a rug. Then roll to one side. Come up off of the roll. Okay. One more thing on our backs like this. Turn the roll the other way. And you'll set up so that the lowest bit of your shoulder blade, the inferior angle of the scapula, the part of the bone that is the closest to your buttock, you want that to rest, right on top of the roll. So the lowest bit of the bone should go straight down onto the apex of the height of the roll. So place yourself on the floor, on the mat, with your best guess of that alignment. Lift your chest so that you land down onto the roll. Use your hands. Literally no one in the world can do this without their hands, so it's not you either. And go down. Oh. Then take your arms out to the sides. Bring the backs of your hands down and just hang out for a moment. Then reach one arm all the way overhead again. Roll to the side. Push up out of the side bend. Okay. Now some work to begin warming up parts of your shoulder that we will then stretch. So clear the mat off. And start on your hands and your knees. Move your hips slightly behind your knees and tuck your toes. Walk your hands forward a little. Don't go crazy. It's much harder as your arms end up more in the overhead alignment. So from my neutral tabletop, I've gone back a little time, and then maybe fine, hands a little farther forward. I'll keep my chest kind of up for the first one. Press your hands straight down into the mat. I want you to imagine that you were doing this on something that could slide, and your goal is to not allow it to slide. So you have to push straight down and imagine almost pulling back against that movement that would go forward. That backward pull feeling should give you some work in the backs of your armpits, and the downward press also some work in your chest. Keep that work. And again, you're trying not to have the movement feel like it's going forward, but almost a sense of pull the whole time. And lift your knees barely off of the mat. Pull, 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 pull. And put it down. Whew. And take your hands a little farther forward. Same thing. This will get much more challenging then. You're still not trying to have the movement be forward. You're trying to get this pulling engagement and have it stay. With your toes tucked under. Pull, 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 and lift your knees. And put it down. Walk your hands a little farther forward. I don't like having my hands on different levels, so I have moved back on my mat. Now on this last one, with your arms more in this overhead alignment, don't worry about the pull. If you can get your knees off of the mat, it's a big win, so just do what you can. Press your hands straight down and try to get your knees barely off of the mat. And soften. Okay, then we'll do some planking. So get your shoulders on top of your wrists and step your feet back into a plank. You can certainly do this with your knees down. Push your hands into the floor and widen your shoulder blades apart on your back so that your chest goes as far away from the floor as it can. Straighten your legs all the way, but without letting your butt pike up. Draw your belly in and reach your buttocks back. Then imagine again sliding your hands backward toward your feet, but without letting your butt pike up into the air. And relax it, put it down. Whew. We'll do that one more time. And after the backward slidey engagement, I want you to think about sliding your hands in toward each other. So if I were doing a sideways plank, it would be this kind of pull, where I would be bringing the heels of my hands, whatever those are, my thumbs, let's say, in underneath my belly button-ish. And of course, your hands don't actually move, but it's the engagement as if. Start with your shoulders on top of your wrists. Step your feet back. You can again do this with your knees down. Widen your shoulder blades apart. If your knees are up, straighten your legs. Belly in, buttocks back. Pull as if to slide your hands toward your feet, and pull as if to slide your thumbs toward each other. Oof, and put it down. That is enough of that. And let's come up to stand. Grab a block or something vaguely block-shaped. Oh, we'll do a little fierce pose. The movements of this fierce pose with the block will combine some of the planking stuff and some of the arm overhead strap stuff that we've already done. So stand with your feet, hips width distance apart-ish, and turn your inner heels back and apart so that your Achilles tendons both point straight back. Hold the block with your hands long style on the shortest side and resist the temptation to grip the block. You have to do the work of holding the block by pushing. Straighten your arms, reach the block forward, and crush the block. Crush it. Crush the block. Keep trying to crush the block and lift it up overhead. Bend your knees. Move your hips back a little extra. Lift your chest and try to pull the block farther back and crush it. Straighten, relax the shoulder work. One is plenty. So now get your strap again and undo the loop. I've heard this forever called shoulder flossing. Still not quite sure where the flossing comes from, but sure, shoulder flossing, why not? If you have enough space and no one is around you, you can just leave the strap all the way long. Sometimes I don't like how much of it dangles because I'm very particular, so I sometimes fold it if I have a long enough strap. Your hands will need to be slightly wider apart than your shoulders. And you'll probably just have to adjust as we begin because it's hard to know exactly where you need to be. Reach your arms forward and get a little tension in the strap. Pull like you would tear the strap apart. I'm probably kidding myself about this width. Keep the tension and start to lift the strap up and overhead. And you have to, yeah, for sure, you have to make your arms go at the same time behind you. So rather than sneaking one shoulder and then the other, both arms have to pass through the intense stretch to bring the strap down vaguely buttock-ward. Keep the tension. I'm just turning so you can see a different angle and come back up. Oh, that is right on the edge of what I can accomplish. And over in front of your chest again. If you don't have any stretch, your hands are too wide, so come in narrower. Still pull side to side and go up and over. And down. Wow. And up and over. One more just like this. If you've accomplished a ton of opening, maybe you want to bring your hands a little closer together. I don't, but maybe you do. Oh, and up and over. As we finish the exercise, try not to move your hands on the strap. So keep the width with which you have been working. Oh, but relax it for a second. Dang. Now we're going to go again and stay in the deep, nasty part of the stretch and make small movements. As we do this, I want the tension in the strap to stay. And it's easy to have the tension as your muscles catch, but try not to let it all be from the inflexibility. Try to actually still be pulling side to side. There's some good indication that engaging the antagonist muscle is useful for releasing the main mover. So get the tension, pull side to side, and go up and over. And get into the nasty bit and pause in the stretch. Try to maintain some active pull side to side. Don't let the tension in the strap be entirely from the catch in your musculature. And go down just a couple inches. And up a couple inches. And down a couple inches. Up a couple inches. Down a couple inches. Up a couple inches, down a couple inches, and up and all the way over again, keeping the tension in the strap. At least it feels good when it's over. You can set the strap to the side. We'll do a little lat stretching in Warrior One. So step your right leg forward some, and your left leg back some. Have your left toes turned mostly forward, but turned out enough that your whole left heel can be flat when your leg is straight and your right knee is bent. Bend your right knee so that you get some depth there, and we don't need to tax your leg and ankle too much, so have your foot forward so your knee is on top of your ankle-ish. Straighten your left leg and turn the left side of your rib cage forward so that your chest is all the way square in the direction your right toes are facing. Take your left arm up toward the ceiling and turn your left palm so it faces off to the right side. Reach your right arm up and over and grab onto your left wrist. Pull up toward the ceiling so that your left arm is straight and your left shoulder blade has lifted, and then side bend to the right. Bend your left elbow a little and side bend a little more. Pull to the right and up with your right hand, and against that, imagine pressing the back of your left wrist up toward the ceiling, and use that upward press feeling to straighten your left elbow and bring your left upper arm in closer to your head. Oof, soften, come up, and switch. Now left leg forward, right leg back. Go for the same length stance and the same angle in the back foot. Push your right heel back and down. Bend your left knee. Go for about the same bend. Do your damnedest to keep your right leg all the way straight. Turn your right ribs forward so your chest is square in the direction your left toes are pointing, and reach your right arm up toward the ceiling. Take your left hand up and over, grab onto your right wrist, and pull up so that your right arm is straight and your right shoulder blade has lifted, and then side bend to the left. Bend your right elbow a bit, and side bend a little more. Pull away and up with your left hand, and against that, imagine pressing your right wrist up toward the ceiling. Don't let your right wrist actually go up though. Use that engagement to straighten your right elbow and bring your right upper arm in closer to your head. Come back up and step out. Okay, we'll do some more lat stretching in a bit. But now get your strap loop again. We'll go to a different kind of chest stretch. Make a loop. And this one make pretty narrow. If your chest is more flexible, you can make it more narrow. If it is less flexible, you want it a little wider. Be careful of the tail of your strap so you don't step on it and jerk your body around. I recommend strapping after you set your legs. Step your right leg forward, left leg back, back to a warrior one. And put the loop on behind your back. Have the loop around your wrists with your palms in toward each other. Get the work in your legs. Press your left thigh back. Bend your right knee. Square off your chest. And then bend your elbows some. Squeeze your elbows in toward each other and move your shoulder blades toward each other on your back. Press your wrists strongly into the loop. And your goal here is to not let your elbows drop. Your elbows stay still, so your upper arms are up, is the idea. And press the pinky side edges of your wrists back and up to get your elbows in the direction of straightening. And relax it. Be careful of the strap tail as you step out and switch. Same thing. Now left leg forward, right leg back. Bend your left knee, press your right thigh back, and put the loop around your wrists behind you with your palms facing in. Turn your right ribs forward so your chest is square, and bend your elbows some. That's probably too much, let's be real. Squeeze your elbows in, squeeze your shoulder blades in, and press your wrists strongly into the loop. Keep the tension and try to keep your elbows up is the goal. And press the pinky side edges of your wrists back and up. And soften it and step out. Just a soft forward fold for a moment. Stand with your feet hips width distance apart-ish. You can even bend your knees some, doesn't need to be so hamstringy. And hinge at your hips. Let your back round and your head hang. Your arms can just dangle. Then make your way back upright. Okay, now take your block and put it on the center of the mat-ish at one end on the lowest height. And widen your strap loop so it's as wide as your shoulders again. So that when you strap your upper arms, just above your elbows, your hands come either straight forward from your shoulders or can be ever so slightly wider. The block will prevent your wrists from coming in toward each other, and the strap will prevent your elbows from splaying, so that you will be able to get a more dedicated stretch where we're intending. The stretch will be much more effective if you have some engagement. So rather than just schlorping your way into a sloppy stretch, we'll get some work here. With the strap around your upper arms just above your elbows and your palms against the block as you held it in the air, press your forearms down. And not just your elbows, but also the outsides of your wrists, so you have some tricep work. Use that downward force to encourage your shoulder blades to widen apart. Keep your shoulder blades wide, but pull your shoulder blades toward your buttocks some. Keep your shoulder blades placed where they are is the goal. And don't actually move your arms, but imagine dragging your elbows back toward your, whatever they are, your knees. That should give you a ton of work in your shoulders. And if your shoulders are fairly tight like mine, I already have some stretch in the back of my armpits. Keep all of the work so you don't get to relax anything. It's not a nice stretch. And slowly start to move your hips and your chest back, as if to put your butt down on your heels. Come up out of it. Relax it for a second. We'll do it again. It's hard to maintain the engagement, so I encourage you to play with durational differences in the pose. So going for a short stay versus a long stay, but trying to make sure that you can keep the engagement all through your shoulders as you stretch. Let's do it again. So put your forearms down with your palms against the block. Make sure that your elbows are still strapped, your upper arms just above your elbows rather. And to get the work, press down, not just into your elbows, but also your outer wrists, so your triceps are working, and widen your shoulder blades all the way apart. Keep your shoulder blades wide, but pull your shoulder blades toward your buttocks some. They'll go toward each other a little, that's fine. And then imagine dragging your forearms backward. The backward drag is really the kicker, so do your best to keep that as you move your hips back. If you come readily to your heels, then you can move your legs farther back. And come forward to come up and out. Oh. Okay, so now that you have that bit of stretch there, we're going to take that same sort of relationship of your upper arms to your torso and do the same kind of change in it, but maintaining work. So now we're going to do it weight bearing. So for this, we won't use the block. We'll make the shape slightly nicer for your shoulders by not being quite so rotated. So put your elbows down underneath your shoulders, and this time interlace your fingers. Start with your shoulders right on top of your elbows, and instead of having your knees so far back, have your knees just forward of your hips some. So for most of us, our lower backs will be slightly round already. Tuck your toes under, but before you lift your knees, get the work. Press your elbows and your outer wrists down, widen your shoulder blades apart, pull your shoulder blades toward your buttocks some, and then imagine sliding your forearms backward. And it's a fun idea that all that will stay. It's perhaps unrealistic, but you will be required to engage as you now take your knees off of the floor. Keep the shoulder work. Lift your hips up and press your chest back. Move your torso forward, bend your knees, bring your knees close to the mat. 1. Lift your hips up, press your chest back. Come forward, shoulders on top of your wrists, knees close to the mat. 2. Lift your hips, press back. Back downish. 3, 2 more. Lift, press your chest toward your legs. Back down. 4. 1 more. Lift, move your torso. And come all the way down. Rest, and we'll do 1 more round. For the yogis, that's good work to prepare for entering forearm balancing, Pincha Mayurasana, peacock feather pose, and all of the subsidiary balancing poses. Here we go. If you want to be extra even, you can even switch which first finger is on top. It's not really the focus of the movement, so if that makes you feel too unstable, don't do it, and that's fine. Have your elbows under your shoulders, about as wide as your shoulders. You may have noticed in the last round of things how your elbows try to move away from each other. You don't have the strap now, so now the work of keeping your elbows in has to be in your shoulders themselves. Press your forearms down. Pull your shoulder blades toward your buttocks with them extra wide. Imagine sliding your forearms along the mat toward your knees. Make sure your knees are ahead of your hips some. Tuck your toes. Another set of 5. Hover. And lift your hips and press back. Hover. And back. Hover. And back. Hover. Back. One more. And back. Bring your chest forward, bring your knees down, and rest. That's hard. So now we'll take a similar range of motion exercise, but with a totally different rotation. So rather than thinking that arm overhead shape, now we're going in the arm behind shape. And you might notice that we're sort of alternating between those two relationships. So for this, we'll set up vaguely in the direction of entering Purvottanasana, intense stretch of the east. Sit, and you can have your knees bent, and take your hands behind you some with your middle fingertips pointing straight forward toward your feet to start. Then that's pretty extreme for most of us. So if your shoulders are maybe not the most flexible in the world, you can turn your fingertips out a little bit, but they're still pointing mostly forward. They're not out, they're not back, they're forward-ish. You might not be able to get the balls of your feet down right away unless your ankles are very flexible, and that's fine. They'll be able to come down when your hips lift. Bend your elbows a little. Squeeze your elbows toward each other and pull your shoulder blades toward your spine some. Push down into the center of the heel of each hand and lift your chest up, but still with maybe a little bend in your elbows. Try to embed the tips of your shoulder blades into your back. You'll try to keep this back shape, or at least recreate it once you're in. Start to lift your hips up and pause. Just with your butt up a little bit like this. Most of us tend to slump. Draw your shoulder blades toward each other and toward your buttocks so that your shoulders are down away from your ears feeling, and get the mini back bend back. Then we're going up to hips being in line with shoulders and back down. We'll only do 3 of these. Start to lift. You can take your head back if that's nice for you. And lower. Your head comes out last. It sort of gets dragged by your chest movement. And hips come up again. Try to keep shoulder blades toward each other. Tips of your shoulder blades into your back. Maybe your head goes back. And down. Chest up some. One more. Up. Shoulder blades toward each other. Shoulder blades toward your buttocks. Tips of your shoulder blades into your back. Hips come down. Back catches, lift your chest. Put your butt down this time. And come out. Give your wrists a break. Oof. We'll do that same exercise one more time with the option of doing the full rotation of your hands if you didn't do it in the first one. That makes the stretch more intense. Here, your upper arms are wildly internally rotated, so you're really getting this crazy stretch off of shortened muscles on the front of your shoulder. So take your hands behind you some. Maybe this time you want to have your middle fingertips pointing straight forward. Same sort of bend in your knees-ish. Squeeze your elbows in some. Squeeze your shoulder blades in. Lift your chest up. Push into the center of the heel of your hand. Notice the tendency to collapse towards your pinkies. Lift your hips up a little and pause. Notice the schlumpy tendencies. Fix it. This time 5. Lift your hips. Lower. And lift. Shoulder blades toward each other. Shoulder blades toward your buttocks. And lower. Try not to let your chest slump down. Hips go up. And hips come down. 2 more. Lift. Lower. Lift. Lower. I'm honestly terrible at counting as I do these things. Let's do one more for good measure. It might be enough or it might be one extra. Who knows? Come all the way down then. Let your butt find the floor and relax. Oh, dang. Okay. We'll do a little bit of a different kind of release then for the back of your armpit. So find a blanket or a towel and make a roll. Doesn't need to be the thickest roll, and this should be very tight. If you have a foam roller, you could do this with the foam roller instead. The tighter, the firmer, perhaps the more effective and less comfortable this will be. I don't want it to be too thick, so I'm going to go with it about this high. If you have a foam roller, you just have to deal with the height you have. This is kind of the setup for Anantasana, the pose of infinite bliss. If you have extra blanket bit, have it going out away from your body and lie down and have the muscles that make up the back of your armpit come against the roll. Try to take your elbow, let's do your right side first, so you're on your right armpit here, and take your elbow back to try to get your elbow in line with your torso, with your rib cage. You can either keep your right leg bent or straighten and stack your legs, more like full Anatasana. Bend your right elbow and rest your head in your hand. Sort of a bathing beauty look. You can have your left hand ahead of your chest for a little extra support. You might want your left foot behind you because we'll move just a little here and it tends to be very tippy. If this is too much on your neck, you can move. You can also play with how adjusting the placement of your head moves your weight. Most of us can find a nice little nasty bit here to sort of rest in. And then I want you to go side to side or sort of front to back across the muscle. So a roll, oh yeah, that's good, toward my back some. And then toward my armpit proper. And let's do 5. 2. Rock back. I also have extremely tight IT bands, and I get a little massage across that too. Fun. 3. Back. You might again be supporting your head. Forward. Back. Oh. Forward. Then roll onto the back end of things. Try to find that nice little spot where you get some release. And then if your head is in your hand, remove it and straighten-ish your right arm. Turn your right thumb down toward the floor. Oh, that's intense. Oh, and then be done with it. Fine. And let's do the other side. So take your blanket roll or your roller and take it to the other end of things. If you don't need to see me while you do it, you could just flip your body over as you have it. And lie down with the muscles that make up the back of your left armpit on top of the roll here. Try to move your left elbow back so that your left elbow is in line with your torso-ish. You might have your head up in your hand. You can again play with how adjusting the placement of your head can give you a different kind of experience. You might like some support. You might like the full thing. I don't know what you like. Put your right hand ahead of you. You might like your right leg behind you, because again, it's very tippy. And then roll a little bit toward your back. This side is not nearly as tight on me. And forward. Back. And forward. Back. Forward. Back. Forward. Again, I'm terrible at counting, and I think I'm going faster this side. Let's do one more. It's probably 6. Then get yourself a bit more to the back side of things and straighten-ish your left elbow. Try to turn your left thumb down toward the floor and hang out in that spot. Fine, and then soften it. Oh, and come on up. One more thing. And for this, you really do need the yoga strap. So hopefully you've got something that's long enough that will let you set this up. I'm going to make the first part of like a strap jacket or a strap harness for some trapezius release. So undo the loop in your strap. And pass it behind your back. And try to get the strap right on the tips of your shoulder blades. Then toss each end of the strap. First, make sure it's kind of even. That was a bad demo on my part. Toss each end of the strap over its own shoulder. And hopefully you have the mobility to be able to reach back and put it underneath that first part. This is honestly much easier if you have a friend who can help you. Then cross the tails and try to adjust the front part so you get up onto trapezius. I don't know how I got a twist in this, but I guess I'll just deal. Fine. Then you can sit or stand or just get yourself someplace comfortable. Grab the ends of the strap kind of close to your rib cage if you can get there. Lift your chest up and then just pull. Oh, so nice. Oh. Then you can even keep that little pull and tip your chin down to your chest. Keep your chin down toward your chestish and roll your left ear toward your left shoulder. Then your chin can come kind of away from your chest. Oh, here you can play with long, full inhales and try to get your clavicles, your collarbones to move a bit with the fullness of your breathing. Because you can get some wild changes in the stretch. And roll your head back through center. And go to the other side. Roll your right ear toward your right shoulder. And breathe. Roll back to center. Lift your head back upright, soften the pull. And we'll just sort of hang here for a second. We'll do one more thing with this, one more of these neck stretches. Just a fun fact while we're here. If you have the length in the strap, this strap is not quite long enough for my torso here. You can bind it here, and it's a great way to do a practice because it keeps your shoulders back a little bit. I mean, depending on what you're practicing. But it's an interesting way to sort of have this feedback on the placement of your shoulders. That's neither here nor there. One more thing then. Hopefully that gave your hands a second to relax. Get your strap ends again. Make sure you still have them crossed. And pull kind of down and away. Start with your chest up. And same sort of beginning, and we're just adding a movement. Tip your head forward and down. Roll your left ear toward your left shoulder. Then your chin can come away from your chest some. Now stay with your head tilted. You want that line that runs from chin to center of your forehead to stay on that slant. And turn your head as if to look over your left shoulder at the floor while you still pull down. Oh, it's so good. turn your head back forward, still with your left ear toward your left shoulder. And roll your chin back to your chest. Try to make sure your spine is still upright. Make sure your pull on your strap ends is even and intact. And last thing, roll your right ear toward your right shoulder. Breathe. Keep the slant and turn your head as if to look over your right shoulder. Oh, dang. And turn back to center. Roll your chin down. And then lift your head, soften the pull. You can undo your strap jacket. Oof. Maybe you enjoy a little feeling. We'll do one more little thing. I'm going to change how I'm sitting because my feet are falling asleep. This is called upward bound finger pose, Urdhva Badangulyasana. You could sit or stand, but interlace your fingers. Turn your palms over, press them forward, and get your elbows straight. Try to keep your elbows straight. Lift your hands up. As your hands come up and your flexibility catches, try not to let your ribs lift, but keep your ribs contained, and then tip your head down toward your chest and stay. Bring your hands smoothly down, lift your head up. Other side, so other first finger on top, but the same general shape. Flip your hands over, press forward. Get your elbows all the way straight. Then lift. As you catch, contain the front of your rib cage. Tip your head forward and down, and stay. Bring your hands down, lift your head up. Those of you who practice that movement regularly, we often use it as an opening movement. So it's a really different experience when you do it sort of as a finishing movement after a shoulder practice, which hopefully you noticed. At any rate, if you're at home, I hope you'll set yourself up for a nice break. After a yoga practice, we usually lie flat on the floor and practice for death. So you let go of all of the engagement in your body. You can set a little timer or put on like a nice quiet bit of music for 5 minutes-ish. If you got to get going on your way, of course, that's how life goes. But at any rate, thank you very much for practicing with me today. I hope to see you for another class on practice soon. Namaste.